What's going on, guys? My name is Arrow, and in today's video, I'm going to show you how I made Locus mines insane. Kind of. Okay, so in 3.22, GGG introduced a new support gem that works for bow and wand skills called Locus Mine Support. What this support does is allows you to make your projectile skills from bows and wands fire a number of projectiles from a number of thrown mines, and they aim back at you. And in theory, this could be used to be a boss killer where you basically stand right on top of the boss, it throws a bunch of mines, and then all the projectiles come and shotgun on your location. I tried that a bit. It seems some other people have tried that a bit, and to be completely honest, it just kind of sucks. It's a trash play style. It's not fun, and you have to build as if you're some giga tank because you have to stand on top of the boss and face tank it, but you're also a mine player, so you have to be on the right side of the tree. And it just straight up doesn't work. But I didn't want to stop there, so I decided we're going to keep pushing. How can we make this interesting? And I found a way to make Locus mines feel amazing, provided you don't care about killing any bosses. So in the background, what you're seeing is Caustic Arrow. It's got an MTX on it. It's absolutely absurd. You can't see anything, but that really gives you an idea of how crazy the coverage is in this build. What we're doing is we're getting a bunch of projectile speed. We're using the Nimbus ring to make projectiles fire randomly. And what that does is it negates the downside of having to aim at yourself. So in each mine that we throw, instead of pointing at us, points in a random direction. So why Locus Mine Support? Locus Mine Support has a smaller, less damage multiplier than other mine supports that could be used with bows and wand attacks, and that alone is pretty solid. But it also has at least 3 mines thrown at a time, which is almost like a minefield support built into the gem. With Divergent, you get an additional mine. So we're throwing 4 mines at a time that release a bunch of projectiles in all different directions and completely cover the screen in poison. The other downside of Locus Mine is that if you're too close to the mines, they won't go off, which is really, really uncomfortable to play. But there is a way to get past that as well, and that's mine throwing speed. The faster you throw the mines while you're running through a map, the faster they get out way in front of you, and they detonate before you get to them. I'll do a little showcase in a minute to kind of show how this all plays and how it functions, because if you don't play it right, it feels really, really bad. But if you do play it right, actually feels really nice to map with. This is maybe one of the most brain off mappers I've ever played. The damage is really, really good for clearing maps. It's not very good on bosses, map bosses that is. It definitely can't do pinnacle bosses. It might take me 6 months to kill the Exarch, but you guys know that I love to specialize builds, and I ended up doing a ton of Breach and Legion, and this build really, really excels at those. You're basically 2 screens of coverage in both directions, and you don't have to aim. You throw the mines in front of you, you have detonate on your left click, and you just run through the map. So this build is not perfect, but I played it, I enjoyed it, I wanted to get it out there, and maybe the community can iterate on this idea of using Nimbus with the Locus mines and potentially find a solution that isn't standing on top of the boss to make this also a boss killer. Because when you do use the mines the way that they were seemingly intended, the damage is pretty good. It's just not fun, and you're gonna die a lot. So let's jump in and talk about the gear. I'm not gonna go over every single gear piece, but we'll talk about some of the most important things. So we are using the Covenant. Added chaos damage for Caustic Arrow in this particular setup is cracked. We got some plus levels here. These are not too expensive. I think this was a Divine unlinked. Linked it myself for less than a Divine. So very, very accessible. We have Caustic Arrow, and then that is linked to Divergent Locus mines. This makes it so the reservation is higher of your mines, which is a bit of a problem. And then support skills throw up to 1 additional mine. So now we are throwing 4 total mines out in front of us. We're using Despair on hit just to get our clear damage to be better. I know that I could do like an Arcanist brand level 21 Despair and get more damage for single target, but I really don't care about single target at all on this build. It's just a map, it's just a blast, at least in this particular setup. Of course, we have to use the Nimbus ring. Shout out to Jungroan. I'm absolutely obsessed with this item. I think it's one of the most fun things that have been added to this game because it interacts with so many skills in so many fun ways. I really can't stop using it. So we're using it here to make our projectiles fire randomly. We got an additional arrow on our bow. The more arrows you get, the more coverage you get, the more likely you are to hit a boss, which one of the problems is that you can't really aim at the boss. You just kind of put the mines down, you hope they hit it. We get things like poison chance, mine throwing speed. Mine throwing speed is super important. So mine throwing speed we get in a few places, and let's briefly talk about mine throwing speed as we jump into a map and kind of do a little showcase. Divergent locus mines, 4 mines you see here, and you left click and it fires in all different directions. As you can see, the coverage is absolutely absurd. You just throw it out in front of you, and sometimes they blow up in front of you, sometimes they blow up behind you, and it doesn't even matter because it just kills everything within 2 screens of you. Another thing that it's really nice for, because it leaves these poison pods on the ground, that if you're doing blue altars and the mobs spawn way behind you, or maybe you're doing beyond, the mobs spawn way behind you, they're still gonna die. So just to get an idea of the actual coverage here, we'll just throw 1 out and detonate it, and then look at how far some of these pods blow up. All the way up here, at least a full screen away, also in this direction. So now this is just us throwing 1, and some of the mines will go off twice. But if you throw a bunch of these down, you're going to have way off-screen coverage in every direction. And it really makes for an incredibly simple mapping playstyle where you just can shut your brain off, right click in front of you and left click detonate and just walk around. And it's completely no effort. Because we're a Pathfinder, all our flasks are automated. There's really no other buttons to press. When I get to a really tanky boss, I will put my Arcanist brand temp chains on it. I will press my withering step to get our wither steps, to get our wither stacks up faster, and that's it. So it's it really is nice to play. I'd love to have this iterated on a bit to try to figure out how to get a little bit more boss damage. Actually, let me jump back in and show you what it's like without the Nimbus. You throw your mines and you press detonate, and that's what it looks like. Which means it's pretty much impossible to map with, because it aims in the smallest area possible. You basically have to stand on enemies to get the mines to blow up and kill them. Now, the damage is really good when it hits them because they're getting shotgunned by all these projectiles, but it really doesn't feel good. And if you want to fight a boss, it's even worse because you just have to stand, especially if they move, you have to throw the mines away from you and then come back towards the boss. It's incredibly uncomfortable. It's probably the worst support gem I've ever used when using it as intended. So that's why we're using Nimbus. So anyway, mine throwing speed is super important. So you throw the mines out in front of you and they detonate kind of before you run close enough where it blocks them from going off. But sometimes they go off in front of you, sometimes they go off behind you, and that's what gives you this crazy, crazy screen coverage. So Pathfinder, we're going triple elemental flasks, and solving all of our resistances here and getting a ton of reduced damage taken, which makes for very safe mapping. You're not taking massive hits while mapping generally, and having these flasks up with effectively double effect gives us 40% less damage taken of each element. We also have spell suppress. We're using the All's Uprising to give us more flash charges, and Grace has no reservation, which is super nice. The Dark Scorn gives us some fizz taken as chaos. We have chaos res cap in order to deal with that potential upside downside. And this is just like a pretty good bow. You can make a better Citadel bow that has plus arrows. Plus arrows are obviously great for clear. Let's talk a little bit about detonation speed, because I was running into a problem with this build where when I was trying to fight bosses, I was throwing my mines faster than they were blowing up. And a viewer suggested detonate mines. I'm sorry, I don't remember who suggested this, but whoever you are, I love you. Detonate mines has quality that increases mine detonation speed, which I had no idea. I had never used this gem before. I didn't even know why it existed. I don't know why this doesn't get more use. I am not a mine player, so I'm sure somebody will sound off in the comments about what I don't know about this, but with an enhance on it, we have a level 4 enhance, we get 47% increased detonation speed, which is an absolute ton. We link that enhance also to a phantasmal blink arrow, which is why we have 3 cooldown uses of our blink arrow, which in my opinion is the only way that blink arrow is playable if you have multiple uses of it, because with movement speeds with cooldowns for me are just not that good. So we are Pathfinder, using the flash stuff, using the prolif. Apparently Master Toxicist does work with mines, which is pretty cool. And then of course, Nature's Reprisal. The Wither is fantastic. We don't get that many hits on single target, which is why we're also using a Withering Step here, but it does help. Using Expired Learning just to speed things up. We're taking some mine stuff, damage over time stuff. There's not a lot interesting going on the tree. We come down here for some more flash stuff and CDR of movement skills and move speed. I wanted this to be fast. Like I said, I was really leaning into the mapping playstyle. Once I figured out that I wasn't going to be able to comfortably boss with it, and I was going to be able to clear entire screens with one throw of mines, I thought, okay, let's just dive really hard into that. So getting additional arrows from this large thread of hope. This is super nice. This is not brand new tech, but allows us to get some pierce. Oh, I was using fork for a bit and I'm not, so this is a dead node. You can replace that if you decide to play this. I'll change that in the POB. But you got to get to 100 poison chance, and then that's really all that's going on here. Oh, some interesting tech with clarity. We're running a level 1. 13% chance to recover 10% of mana when you use a skill while affected by clarity. Basically, I throw my mines, and instead of needing to recover mana with regen, I just get my mana back every time something goes off. I'm also triggering a bunch of things with Mana Forged arrows. I don't know if that actually works with the Clarity Watcher's Eye, but this is really cool. So I have a anomalous Mana Forged arrows, which costs 2 mana for everything, I believe. Yeah, so 2 mana. So I get it once every couple of attacks. It's got Toxic Rain, Mirror Arrow, Storm Rain, and Frenzy. So I get Frenzy charges, but also all of these are linked to Withering Touch, which is giving everything a chance to wither. Because Nature's Reprisal on Pathfinder is only getting us some wither stacks because we don't hit very often on single targets, this is giving us a bunch more sources. Storm Rain hits 1,000,000 times. Mirror Arrow puts a bunch more stacks down, and Toxic Rain also hits a bunch. So interesting way to get a bunch more stacks down. Let me jump into the map and actually show you what this looks like without the absurd Oblivion Caustic Arrow effect, to give you an idea of if you want to play this without having a full white screen. The coverage still looks really cool, but it doesn't completely blind you. And yeah, it really honestly is a lot of fun. If you want to kill a single boss, don't play this build. If you want to juice up your map bosses with some sort of stuff on your passive tree, don't play this build. But if you want to do like juiced mapping, Legion, Breach, probably could do Expedition really well. I didn't actually play any Expedition, but it could absolutely do that. Then this is an awesome build. You want to shut your brain off, don't aim, just run. I had a really good time with this, and I'm really hoping to get this idea of the Locust Mines Nimbus out there. I also tried Kinetic Blast, and that also looks really fun, but I didn't build around it, so I don't know how much damage it would actually do, but it gives you a similar effect of just complete absurd screen coverage. So if you check this out or try something similar, let me know. If you have any improvements to the build, let me know as well. I am in the middle of a subathon over at twitch.tv/AER0__ because I got Twitch partner this week. So stop by the channel and say hello. I will be going live after this video. And thank you for all your support. Thank you for watching. And as always, take care.